We talk about, we've heard this many different times. It's like, someone's opinion about you is none of your business. And it's all about the projection of someone else's pain and their lens of life onto you. And it really has nothing to do with you. It's impersonal, and more has to do with their conditioning and their perception. Mm-hmm. So how have you, or what are some tools, or how do we really release that need for outside validation and attachment to that, the likes or the dislikes, negative or positive, commentary?
Yeah, just like we began to attach to it in the first place, it took time. In the same way, to detach is going to take time. It's going to take the evolution of your companionship with yourself. That's what has been missing for us girls, especially for us women, is as girls, we were so disconnected to our own knowing, to our own wisdom, because we were told, make others happy, put others first. That's a good girl. That's what good girls do. That we shoved our own connection to ourselves really to the bottom of the pole. So now, just like we took many years to shove it down, it's going to take many years for it to come back up. But that is the plant we have to water. And in order to water that plant, we have to stop watering the outside plant. So, we have to start detaching and start watering this one. And it happens synergistically almost, where you turn your attention to, what am I feeling? What am I not speaking the truth to? How am I not owning my own feelings? Wait. What am I feeling? So we keep watering that plant, even though it's been so neglected. We don't even know, like you said, what am I feeling? Right? That's why I gave terms to it, just to help women to understand their patterns, because we don't even understand how to notice the pattern, right? You look, but you don't know where to look. So as you begin to have words, so this book gives words to the narrative, words to the feelings that we never knew we could have, or our patterns. Now you begin going, oh my God, that's that. Oh, this is this. Now I'm divorcing myself. Now I'm scared. Now I'm in fear of rejection. Now I'm in fear of abandonment. Just by placing the fear, you begin to notice yourself. You begin to become aware. You turn your attention inward. Each time you turn your attention inward, what you're doing is not turning it outward, right? So you stopped watering that plant. You started watering this plant. And bud by bud, drop by drop, this inner blossom begins to expand. And now you have a new inner terrain that is flourishing, which you never had before. And, it seems cliched, but there is this inner abundance that grows within you that consumes you to the point where you're not hungry for another's bounty. You have so much bounty inside you. You're not foraging for others. And it is profound and it is liberating. And that's what this book, A Radical Awakening, promises is, well, not a full promise, you know what I mean? It's the glimmer of, the aspiration of each woman blossoming her own inner terrain to such abundance that her need for the other goes away. So it's 380 pages, and it was 520 pages of intense inner growth that I take women on step by step so that they can develop this. It's not just a motivational book that they should, it tells you how you can.
So helpful, because again, I've been on this journey for so long, and it was very helpful to have it written, because I'm so visual in one place that I was underlining the book like crazy. And I started reading it on vacation last week, and it was very hard to dive in. And I'm sure that was my ego going, oh God, change is coming. Right. But then when I focused yesterday and just devoured the pages, I was like, it is so hopeful, and it is so empowering, and it just knocks it, turns on the light of awareness. You see through the matrix, you deconstruct the patriarchy, how women and men are designed biologically, which dictates this whole sexual conditioning that we go through. So talk a little bit about that, because I'm actually working with a sex therapist right now, because I interviewed her on this podcast, and she said, sexual freedom or sexual healing is the final frontier of spiritual awakening. And I know, how do we, how did you reclaim your sexual power?
Again, it is only through unlayering all the bullshit we've been told around sexuality that comes from patriarchy that I could begin to touch upon my own inner power and therefore my sexuality. And as I touched on my sexuality, I touched on my inner power. It is all the things that we've been told are wrong with us that we need to untalk ourselves out of. You know, even the fact that we women are not even comfortable in our bodies, that has a direct impact on our capacity to be sexual in our bodies, right? So many women don't know where their clitoris is. They don't accept their bodies in broad daylight. They want to hide. They never show themselves to their partners. All these things are indoctrinations from culture because culture was so clever. It told women that that's not what a good girl does. And because we so want to be a good girl, we gave up that power. But when we gave up our sexuality, we gave up our own self celebration and our own power to make ourselves happy and joyful and own our own bodies. And the more disconnected we are from our bodies, the more in control we are by the patriarchy. The more we compete with other women because we're all trying to look according to a standard instead of owning our bodies. So the ripple effect is drastic, it's dysfunctional and profound. So again, it all comes back to unlayering from what culture has told us, separating from the cultural topic and narrative around sexuality. And this book reminds us that there's another narrative. And there are many narratives, really, but it's definitely not this one narrative. And people are not liking that part in the book. And they think I'm promoting a leftist agenda of sexual anarchy. So this is what we need to realize, that culture will push back, culture will resist, because culture is all about control. So anything that reeks, even or even like hints aromatically of freedom, culture is going to clamp down on it because we've been so subjugated to not be free. It's so sad to me. Like when I tell women, you know, masturbation is their right and they can enjoy it, they go, no, how can you talk like this? You know, like as if my vagina is only for the man. And I go, there you go. You're just giving your power. I'm telling you to take your power back. You don't want it. Right. So one woman wrote aptly so. She said, I don't know whether I'm ready for so much freedom. And isn't that tragic? That so much freedom, right? We're not we don't know if we're ready for so much freedom. We've been made so afraid of freedom because we've been so comfortable being controlled that we're even apprehensive of touching liberation. I mean, that's really sad, right? That's like the bird in the cage. You open the door and the bird doesn't fly.
Exactly. Or the elephant that was tied up as a kid elephant, and then they get big and strong and they could easily have ripped that rope and they don't even have to attach the rope to anything. It just stays there because it's been conditioned to believe it can't go anywhere.
Yes. Yes.
And it's just so once you turn on the light, you can't go back. And your book presents it in a way that if you do get triggered, it's like, this is exactly the areas that you need to look at, right? We're like fish in the ocean. We're not aware that we're drinking, breathing water. You know, that's how deeply ingrained we are in this conditioning. So, you know, in your conscious parenting books, you talk about, it's not about what your child is doing or not doing. It's about how you're reacting it. And it's turning inward and parenting yourself, healing those parts of yourself so that we can break this conditioning and not pass this down generationally. So that was my train of thought from before.
Absolutely. There are no five evil men on the top. However, there is a patriarchy, and it's indisputably toxic. And again, the men suffer too. The men suffer from it as well. No one is benefiting from anything that is toxic. But we need to recognize that currently the system more favors, of course, the male and if the white male, but that doesn't matter. It's a system that is fully perpetuated and controlled now by everyone who participates. So it's everybody's responsibility, especially those who are oppressed, really, in this case, the woman, to rise up. Because the ones in comfort on the throne will not give up the throne. So let's not even look to them to give us permission or to change. And this is for every micro life or every macro life, right? I always tell women who are, say, in a relationship where they feel controlled, I always tell them, don't wait for the controller to give up the control. They're enjoying the control. You have to rise into your power to check the control. So that's what this book does. It doesn't lay blame. I've been very compassionate about all men, but it calls it what it is. If it currently is a toxic patriarchy, it's just what it is. But all men suffer from it too. Some are more privileged than others, but even the privileged are cut off from their heart. Because toxic patriarchy means it's toxically masculine, which means the masculine beauty that masculinity can be is now at a toxic level. But the femininity can be at a toxic level too. In my life, there were moments where I was toxically feminine, and I needed to enter the beauty of my femininity without becoming toxically feminine. In the same way, masculinity, which is beautiful, is currently toxically masculine. So aggressive, what could be assertive and beautifully aggressive, as in protective, is now toxically invasive and violent, right? What can be territorial in terms of being protective of the tribe is now gotten territorial to the point of invading and dominating others. So what could be beautiful about masculinity, strong boundaries, assertive boundaries, clear boundaries, is now worldwide dominion, right? It's like domination. That's not boundaries, that's domination. So that's what I mean by the toxic patriarchy, where healthy components of masculinity have become toxic.
Yes. And it's all about, even like you say, the men are suffering. So they're wounded children too, that are just not whole, searching outside of themselves for validation, power, submission, all of that. And so I love this parallel just between love and what it truly is. And we can't enter a relationship with and feel true love if we're not whole ourselves. We can't be a good conscious parent unless we're whole ourselves. So it's really deconstructing all of this conditioning and coming back to, parenting ourselves or growing up into adults and letting go of all these protection mechanisms as that we developed as children for survival. Thank you for listening to the Heal podcast. Be sure to tune in for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. Oh, and make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. And if you feel inspired, we would love you to rate and review us so that we have the opportunity to reach more people. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram for some behind the scenes fun and more inspiration at @HealDocumentary and @Kelly Gores. Thank you so much and be well.